Hello, I'm Chris Griffith. I am a UX lead down in Carlsbad, California, near San Diego, at a home automation security company. I'm also the author of Mobile App Development with Ionic from O'Reilly, as well as Electron from Beginner to Pro, co-author of that with a good friend, Leaf Wells. That's a title available from A-Press. I have several courses available on lynda.com, and will soon be publishing titles with Egghead.io. So my original degree actually is in physics from UC Santa Barbara. And believe it or not, I've actually never taken a programming course in my life. It's completely accidental. It makes sense where I'm at now, but it is a more interesting path. I actually wanted to be a science teacher, but I was really interested at the intersection of teaching and technology. And I still remember the day when I saw an old Mac SE30 driving a Laserdisc, because my father worked for NCR, so I've been exposed to computers since I was a wee lad. You know, I actually know what a punch card is, and when you walk into computers that are in rooms. And you know, the thought of writing a word processor or a spreadsheet had no appeal. When I actually saw this thing called multimedia, which was really very, very new and very, very different. At the time, it was like you had a tape deck and a slide projector was about as advanced as you got. To see a computer that you could interact with and that would interact and change what it played on TV with a Laserdisc, this is all obviously before digital video and QuickTime and those sorts of technologies, really sort of percolated my interest in technology again. And from that, it led into educational software, trying to write something that was usable, which then led me into the world of user experience, which I've been doing for about 20 years now. Well, UI and UX are two different things, and people always put them together, but they're really very two different disciplines. I'm more of a user experience person. I like to joke, I have trouble drawing a straight line in Photoshop with the Shift key held down. Visual designers, UI designers have their own set of talents. There's a reason why a color is chosen. There's color theory. There's a lot over there. For me, I'm looking at the flow and how the system should work, and then applying a UI on top of it. It's really something that any software developer should have some grounding in. They should be able to look at something and not necessarily just blindly develop. They should be able to take it, take a breath, ingest it, and say, wait, does this make sense? Does this really work? And anyone can bring something to the table. In some ways, everyone should be a designer, because everyone is a designer. Where those of us who are truly in the profession, we need to teach everyone else around the table how to level up their skills a little bit. And in turn, the whole product, the whole effort becomes a little bit better. Well, I'll follow kind of sort of standard things. We'll begin creating personas. Who are the people who are going to use it? Try to make them into a concrete entity so everyone around the table can have this character in their head that they can carry through the journey of using the app. It's like, all right, we're going to have Michael, he's going to be 47, he's divorced, 2 kids, and you literally start fleshing this character out. He is, he's been at this job for 3 years, he manages 6 locations, and his challenges are da-da-da-da, and now you have something concrete that everyone can start to frame, like, how would Michael use this? And then now it starts to become less abstract. So you get that. You then start looking at, like, what are the challenges that the app is trying to solve? The term, MVP gets thrown around so often, but that's really what we do is, like, what are the focal tasks? What does this thing have to do? And then you say, how do I reduce the friction in making that happen? Okay, if it's something I need to do all the time. So I've written an Electron app called the Ionic generator, which is a GUI on top of the Ionic CLI. And when I was designing it and working through the various things, like, okay, where are the challenges in creating an Ionic app from scratch? Well, it's a fairly simple initial command on the CLI, Ionic start, which template, and give it a name and away you go. But what are the next steps? Oh, now I got to remember to open up this XML file and do a bunch of edits. And I like to do it once. Why am I doing it at the beginning? Oh, there's this manifest JSON file. Got to do that as well. Oh, but those pieces of data are simultaneous. Okay, do something there with that. Oh, I have all these plugins to manage, et cetera, et cetera. How can I make the process, simpler, all in one simple fashion? So that was what I set out to do with that application. Same thing happens with my other designs. How do I make this simpler and easier? How do I reduce the friction in doing something? And then we back it up by testing. And that's actually how this UX person spends some time inside of code. Because if I can make something, if I can fake something, run it in front of a usability study, get the answers like, yes, that makes sense. That is the right button label. That is the right order. I have data now to back it up, or to say, no, we got it wrong, whole lot cheaper, whole lot faster to fix it, rerun it, rather than, oh, we got to push an app update. You got to get into the App Store. So that's sort of where the world of sort of software engineering and user experience collides and is me. Occasionally a proof of concept. A lot of times it's, picking a technology or a horse, there's got a strong backing. Electron, has GitHub behind it, and obviously Microsoft and Visual Studio Code is using it. So there's a warm fuzzy in selling this open source project. It's like, okay, it's not going to disappear. I've been bitten by that before. But you just try to look and see, okay, is there mitigation? It's something I've taught down at UCSD Extension. That was always something I would stress to the students. Do your homework before you pick up a framework. How active is it? How big is the community? If something happened, when you find the bug, when you hit the wall, are you going to be able to resolve that either within the community, or are they active enough to patch it, or you're going to be left out to dry? You have to look at the longevity of the product. You start talking enterprise, there's a lot more sales. Is there, what's the LTE strategy of this? You hear that from IT, as opposed to something you're doing in the classroom that may only need to live for a year. It really depends on your role. A lot of times you gotta be a little careful. You don't want to ride a dead horse unless you're the last remaining COBOL programmer on the planet. But you do have to spend some time to gain a certain level of competency and be willing to do that. With that said, there are roles where you actually do want to hop around to make sure that that isn't a dying technology, or when you're looking at the business case, that, wait, this new framework actually is lighter, faster, we can actually develop, reduce our time to market, those sorts of things. And that's usually what a good technical lead should be keeping their eye on the future. What's happening? What do I need to be aware of? For me, I sample around as a prototype because my metric is how fast can I build this prototype to the fidelity I need so I can test it to get buy-in from my stakeholders or run my user study. So that's always what I'm looking to do. For the longest time, I'm like, why would I want to learn Angular? I write spaghetti code for a living. It runs, 12 people use it, we finish the study, we wrap it up and we throw it away when we move on to something new. I'm not thinking about enterprise level, like, why would I pick Angular? And I really avoid, why do I want this real heavy enterprise grade framework? And then I saw both Ionic, Onsen, and several other mobile UIs come up on top. I'm like, all right, I'll bite the bullet, I'll learn it, because then I'm going to get out of the box this wonderful UI layer that I can work with. And oh, by the way, I'm not having to recreate the wheel. Part of this was I was transitioning from a lot of Flash mobile development, a lot of Air development with a lot of custom UIs, moving into a lot of standard UIs where I needed the normal looks and feels, and there they were. I wasn't having to recreate this, knowing what my friends on the Flash and Flex world did to write components. I wasn't interested in rewriting components. Yes, because as the role, I never know what I may need to prototype. So that's why actually investing in web technologies has really paid off over all these years. So I may be having to prototype a website. Really know what language I'm using there. Oh, I'm doing a mobile application. Well, look, I can use my web technologies with Cordova. Ionic as my UI layer. Boom, I have a native app. I can get that if I want, all the way to the market if I wanted to. And now with Electron, I can go onto the desktop if there's something I need to do at the desktop layer and build it all with, not having to relearn, everything from scratch. There's learning on each of those, but I'm like, no, I get it. It's CSS, I got it. It's JavaScript, I got it. HTML, I'm good. Oh, I have no parting wisdom, but it was a real pleasure to drive up, and it was very lovely to have a really nice turnout. It was enjoyable. You always kind of get worried sometimes. I've spoken to a few people. Those have been fun. We usually then try to go find a beer and do it that way. I hope people got something out of Electron. I hope they have a chance to, play around with something, maybe find a personal task they may want to play around with it, maybe something at work. It's a fun one to play with.
Hey, I'm VJ. Thanks for coming to the meetup today. I'm the organizer for JavaScriptLA. I wanted to just personally thank you for watching this video. If you found it useful, I'd love for you to subscribe to our channel. We're slowly but surely making lots of little video content for you guys to enjoy and soak up, especially if you want to get better at programming. I'd love for you to be on our Slack channel too. Over 800 users. The link is right here, jsjoin, jsjo.in. If you forget, it's really simple. If you have questions for this meetup, or questions you didn't get to ask, or because you couldn't make it, we'd love to have you just post it in our Slack group. So if you're a newbie, don't worry. It's a good place to go. There's a lot of great engineers all connected around LA and Orange County, so I hope to see you there.